Have you ever felt like, after retirement, your life is no longer truly your own? Perhaps you found yourself dealing with people who bring more stress than joy, who take advantage of your kindness, or who invade your sense of peace. These challenges, whether from family members, friends, or even acquaintances, can slowly chip away at your happiness, your sense of freedom, and even your financial stability if left unchecked. It can feel as though you're no longer in control, especially when you've worked hard for a peaceful, fulfilling life. But here's the good news. You can take back control, rebuild your sense of autonomy, and create the retirement you've always dreamed of by learning how to establish strong boundaries and recognize the warning signs of toxic relationships. In this video, we'll explore the types of guests and relationships that could potentially turn your golden years into a nightmare if you're not careful. From dealing with unwanted visitors who disrupt your peace to protecting yourself from family members or others who may take advantage of your generosity, we'll share practical advice, time-tested wisdom, and effective strategies to help you safeguard your emotional well-being and enjoy the retirement you deserve. Stay with us until the end, because we'll also dive into the art of saying no with grace, without creating unnecessary conflict. We'll help you identify people who may be looking to take advantage of your good nature, and most importantly, we'll show you how to reclaim your precious time for the things that truly matter: your health, your passions, and your loved ones. This isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about rediscovering your purpose, redefining your life, and ensuring that each day feels meaningful, peaceful, and serene. If you're ready to take control of your life and create a retirement full of peace, freedom, and joy, then this video is just for you. Let's dive right in. If you are not already subscribed, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Your support means so much to me, and if you find this content helpful, please like and share it to help spread these valuable lessons to others. If you enjoyed this topic, leave a comment saying 1. If you don't, feel free to comment 0, and let me know how I can improve and provide better content tailored to your needs. Now, let's get started. First thing, money. As the old saying goes, wealth without virtue is meaningless. It is character and integrity that hold true value. What this timeless lesson teaches us is that wealth shouldn't be flaunted or used as a symbol of status. Rather, the real treasure lies in one's moral compass and the wisdom they carry. Material wealth can come and go, but it's our character, kindness, and knowledge that shape our lasting worth. Let me share a story that illustrates this point. In a small town, there lived a 65-year-old woman named Margaret. Margaret was an ordinary woman at first, but thanks to her family's successful business, she unexpectedly found herself with a significant amount of wealth. At first, Margaret was thrilled by her newfound fortune. She began showing it off whenever she could. Every time she met with her neighbors or old friends, she would boast about the generous amounts of money her children sent her, display the sparkling gold rings on her fingers, or talk about the luxurious clothes she had just bought. She didn't stop there. Margaret took to social media, sharing pictures of her sprawling home, fancy cars, and expensive possessions for the world to see. In the beginning, her neighbors and friends admired her success. They congratulated her, thinking it was a sign of her hard work and good fortune. But over time, Margaret's constant boasting began to make those around her feel uncomfortable. Some neighbors started to avoid her, while a few opportunistic individuals took notice of her wealth. They began to see her not as a respected elder, but as a target. One fateful day, while Margaret was returning from a local market, she was followed by a group of strangers. They ambushed her in a secluded area and took all her money and jewelry, leaving her with nothing. The shock from the robbery was so severe that Margaret fell ill and was bedridden for several weeks. It was during this difficult time that Margaret had a moment of clarity. She realized that no amount of money, no matter how much gold or silver she had, could replace the value of wisdom. Her naivety had made her vulnerable, and her need to flaunt her wealth had turned her into a target. Margaret learned a hard lesson that day. The things that matter most in life are not material possessions, but the respect and peace that come from living modestly and wisely. From that moment on, Margaret made a drastic change in her life. She stopped bragging about her wealth or posting pictures on social media. Instead, she focused on self-improvement, volunteering in her community, and living a simpler, more humble life. In doing so, she found that not only did she regain the respect of her neighbors, but she also felt a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. Second thing, relationships. The second thing you should avoid boasting about, especially if you want to enjoy a peaceful and happy old age, is your relationships. There's an adage that says, "True knowledge brings humility. Arrogance is the result of ignorance." This means that truly wise people don't feel the need to brag about their connections, because they understand that there are always others who may have even more impressive relationships. When people flaunt their connections, it often reflects a lack of substance, and they can quickly lose the respect of others. Let me share a real-life example that highlights this point. In a small town in the Midwest, there lived a man named Charles. Even after turning 60, Charles was a regular at community events and social gatherings. He loved to tell stories about the influential people he knew, directors of large corporations, local mayors, and even political figures from both state and national levels. Charles claimed to be on friendly terms with many of these influential people, and he believed that by mentioning these relationships, he would earn the respect and admiration of those around him. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. One day, news spread that a prestigious conference was coming to town, with top executives and influential leaders from all over the country in attendance. Charles confidently told his neighbors that he was sure he'd be invited to this high-profile event, thanks to his extensive network. He was certain his connections would guarantee him a seat at the table. However, when the day of the conference arrived, Charles remained at home, having never received an invitation. His neighbors, who had initially listened with interest to his claims, began to gossip. Some even mocked him for boasting about relationships he clearly didn't have. It left Charles feeling embarrassed, but unfortunately, he didn't learn from the experience. A few months later, Charles encountered a personal problem and decided to turn to an old friend for help. This friend, who worked in local government, had always valued Charles and was willing to offer assistance. But instead of handling the matter privately, Charles began telling people that he had influential friends in high places. He casually mentioned to his neighbors that he could count on his powerful connections for any trouble that came his way. Word of this quickly spread, and the authorities caught wind of the situation. Soon, Charles's friend in the government was questioned by his superiors about possible abuse of power or undue influence. Although no one could find clear evidence of wrongdoing, the rumors alone were enough to tarnish his reputation. Feeling betrayed and used, Charles's friend decided to sever all ties with him. In the aftermath, Charles realized the heavy price he had paid for his need to boast about his relationships. Not only had he lost the respect of his neighbors, but he had also damaged a valuable friendship that had taken years to build. The consequences of his boasting were far more severe than he had ever anticipated. Third thing, boasting about your spouse. The third thing you should avoid boasting about, especially as you age, is your spouse. There's an old saying that goes, "A good fragrance doesn't need to be advertised." This means that when something or someone is truly special, their qualities naturally shine without the need for constant praise or boasting. Boasting about your spouse not only goes against this principle but can also lead to unintended consequences that affect your personal relationships and family dynamics. Let's take a look at the potential fallout from constantly bragging about your spouse. 1. Creating envy and jealousy. When you constantly praise and flaunt how wonderful your spouse is, it can unintentionally stir up jealousy in others. While you may mean it as a simple compliment or expression of love, excessive praise can make others feel uncomfortable. Over time, they may start to resent the attention their relationship receives, leading to envy and strained friendships. As many psychologists and relationship experts point out, the constant display of perfection can make others feel inferior, which can lead to unwanted tension in social circles. Boasting about your spouse could make you a target of envy, which ultimately damages relationships. 2. Damaging family happiness. Continuously bragging about how great your spouse is can also place undue pressure on them. When you elevate them to an unrealistic pedestal, they may begin to feel as though they must live up to those exaggerated expectations. This can cause stress, frustration, and even conflicts within your marriage. Your spouse might feel they are being compared to an idealized version of themselves, rather than being appreciated for who they truly are. Not only does this affect their happiness, but it can also disrupt the harmony of your home. Moreover, boasting about your spouse can create unhealthy comparisons among other couples, leading them to feel dissatisfied with their relationships. This social comparison can breed feelings of inadequacy, which can negatively affect the dynamics of other people's marriages or partnerships, fostering unnecessary rivalry and tension. 3. A better approach: appreciation without boasting. Instead of boasting about your spouse's qualities, consider showing your appreciation through actions and thoughtful words in daily life. Genuine expressions of love and concern for your partner help to nurture your relationship without making others feel uncomfortable. Publicly acknowledging their strengths is wonderful, but it's more meaningful when done in private moments of connection. Whether it's a kind gesture, a thoughtful note, or a compliment given in the quiet of your home. Mutual respect and a strong sense of partnership build the foundation of a lasting marriage. Remember, humility is always appreciated. By not flaunting your spouse, you're not only protecting the happiness within your family, but you're also helping maintain the respect and good relationships you have with those around you. It's about celebrating your partner quietly and privately, allowing their true qualities to shine without the need for public validation. 4th thing, boasting about charity work. The 4th thing you should avoid boasting about, especially in your later years, is your charity work. There's an old saying that goes, "Do good deeds without expecting anything in return." This reminds us that charity should come from a sincere heart, not as a way to seek attention or validation. True virtue lies in the intention behind the act, and it's the genuine care and compassion that people remember, not the desire for recognition. On the other hand, boasting about your charitable efforts doesn't make your actions more valuable. In fact, it can detract from the noble meaning of the gesture. Let me share a story that illustrates this idea. In a small town in the heartland, there was a man named John Harris. John was a successful businessman in his late 50s, known throughout the community for his frequent charitable donations and efforts. He organized several annual charity events, helped fund local orphanages, and regularly made donations to causes in need. However, John had a habit of inviting the press and media to cover his charitable actions, believing that publicizing his good deeds would boost his reputation. One year, John visited a local orphanage and donated a large sum of money. He made sure to have his staff film the entire event and broadcast it live on social media, with his name prominently displayed in every shot. At first, people admired his generosity, but as the media coverage continued, some began to feel uncomfortable. Many started to wonder if John was truly giving out of kindness, or if he was simply using charity as a way to enhance his public image. Not long after, a devastating flood struck a nearby town, leaving many families in desperate need of assistance. John, eager to help, offered donations and support to those affected by the disaster. However, this time, his offer was met with skepticism. Many people, remembering his past need to publicize his charity, questioned whether his intentions were truly sincere or if he was simply trying to garner more praise. Many refused his help, believing he was more interested in attention than in making a meaningful difference. In a conversation with an old friend, John had a revelation. His friend shared the story of Mrs. Clare, an elderly widow living in a neighboring town, who had quietly helped others for years without seeking recognition. Mrs. Clare would gather food, clothing, and supplies and distribute them to those in need, but never once did she seek the spotlight or post about her acts of kindness. This inspired John to reflect on his motivations. He realized that his need to publicize his charity had robbed his good deeds of their true value. From that moment, John decided to change his approach. He began to help others quietly, without involving the media or seeking applause. He focused on giving from the heart, without the need for recognition. As time passed, people began to notice the change. Those who had once doubted his sincerity began to reassess their opinions and began to respect him more. They saw that his actions now spoke for themselves. Charity is a noble act, but when used for boasting, it loses its true meaning. As the ancient wisdom teaches, do good without seeking recognition, for true virtue is quietly rewarded. Let your good deeds shine on their own, without needing the spotlight, and the rewards will come, not in the form of public praise, but in the deeper respect and gratitude of those you've helped. Fifth thing, boasting about future plans. The fifth thing you should avoid boasting about, especially as you enter retirement or embark on new ventures, is your plans. There's an old saying that goes, before you take the first step, don't reveal the path. This means that talking too much about your plans before they're realized can not only put unnecessary pressure on yourself, but also open the door for others to judge you if you fail to achieve what you've promised. In addition, another saying reminds us, there are always higher mountains, meaning there are always others who may have already achieved what you're striving for. Instead of boasting, it's more effective to quietly work toward your goal and let your actions and results speak for themselves. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Let me share a story about a man named Richard Miller. At 65, Richard had just retired after a long career in management. He decided it was time to pursue his dream of opening a small coffee shop in the center of town. Full of excitement, Richard began sharing his detailed plans with friends and family. Everything from the interior design and types of coffee he would serve, to his ambitious goal of making his shop the most popular cafe in the area. At first, his enthusiasm impressed his friends, and they eagerly listened to his ideas. But as the months passed, Richard's friends began asking, when will the shop open? What's taking so long? The pressure mounted. Meanwhile, finding a suitable location, securing financing, and navigating the complex process of permits and paperwork proved to be far more challenging than Richard had anticipated. As time went on, he realized that his plans weren't coming together as quickly as he had hoped. In the end, feeling overwhelmed and discouraged, Richard decided to abandon the idea altogether. Some of his friends, who had initially encouraged him, now mocked him, saying, "You talked a lot about it, but you didn't do anything." The mockery made Richard feel ashamed and disappointed. One day, Richard ran into his old friend, Claire, who had also dreamed of opening a small business. A few years back, Claire had quietly saved money, studied, and honed her skills in the bakery business. Unlike Richard, she hadn't shared her plans with anyone. She kept everything under wraps until she was ready. After a year of preparation, Claire opened her first bakery. Her business quickly became a local favorite because of the quality of her products and her dedication to the craft. People admired her for her humility and her results, not for boasting about her plans. Hearing Claire's story, Richard realized how much his boasting had distracted him from focusing on the real work. He recognized that by talking too much about his plans, he had created unnecessary pressure and set himself up for failure. From then on, Richard decided to keep his future endeavors private until they were ready to launch. He focused on working diligently, letting his results speak for themselves instead of boasting about what he intended to do. Boasting about plans rarely adds value and can often increase pressure, making it harder to succeed. As the old saying goes, a tree must have deep roots to grow tall. All true success requires preparation, patience, and quiet perseverance. Let your achievements shine through your actions rather than your words, and your results will speak volumes. Sixth thing, boasting about falsehoods. The sixth thing you should avoid boasting about, especially in your later years, is telling lies. There's an old saying, a needle in a sack will eventually come out, which means that the truth will always surface, no matter how well it's hidden. Boasting about things that aren't true may give you momentary satisfaction, but it won't earn you the respect you desire. Once the truth is revealed, the lies you've told become impossible to believe, and your credibility is forever tarnished. Trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild. Let me tell you the story of Linda Thompson, a woman in her 60s who lived in a small suburban neighborhood. For years, Linda was known for telling elaborate stories about her family. She often boasted that her son, a high-powered executive at a multinational company, earned a fortune, reportedly tens of thousands of dollars a month, and that he frequently sent her expensive gifts, which she displayed proudly for everyone to see. Her tales painted a picture of a happy, successful family, and for a long time, her neighbors admired her, believing she was truly fortunate to have such a prosperous life. But one day, Linda's son came to visit the town. While he was there, some neighbors learned the truth. He was just an ordinary employee working in a middle management position, earning a modest salary. He wasn't sending her extravagant gifts, and the grand stories Linda had shared were far from accurate. When the truth came out, many of the neighbors felt deeply disappointed. Some even mocked Linda for fabricating stories to make her life seem more impressive than it was. What stung even more was that even the people who once looked up to her began to distance themselves, fearing that any of her other claims could be equally false. One afternoon, Linda sat down with her longtime friend, Karen, who had always been a sounding board for her. Karen gently shared her thoughts. "Linda, living honestly is the most important thing. People love you for who you are, not for what you pretend to be. It's your true self that makes you worthy of respect." This simple advice made Linda reflect deeply on her actions. She realized that boasting about things that weren't true had only damaged her relationships and made her feel like she was living in a false reality. She had become a person trapped in a web of lies, and it was exhausting. From that moment, Linda committed to change. She began to live more authentically, sharing simple and genuine stories from her daily life. She stopped exaggerating, stopped pretending, and started to focus on the real connections with people around her. Gradually, her neighbors began to see the change, and over time, they started to trust her again. They admired her for her honesty and sincerity, and Linda found that living truthfully brought her much more peace than trying to impress others with falsehoods. As the ancient wisdom teaches us, honesty is the most skillful trait. Integrity is the most enduring value in life. Don't boast about things that aren't true, because falsehoods have a way of coming to light, and once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. True respect is earned through honesty, not through fabrications. Seventh thing. Boasting about your talents. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The seventh thing you should avoid boasting about is your talents. There's a well-known saying that goes, "Knowledge makes a person humble. Foolishness makes a person arrogant." This means that truly skilled people don't feel the need to boast about their talents, because they understand that there is always more to learn and someone more skilled. Arrogance often comes from those who lack a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. Instead of boasting about your abilities, it's far more meaningful to demonstrate them through actions. True talent is proven in what you do, not in what you say. Let me share the story of Robert Mitchell, a man in his 60s who was well known in his community for his successful career in construction. Robert had been a project manager for some of the most impressive building projects in the city, and he had earned many awards and accolades throughout his career. Naturally, he was proud of his accomplishments, and whenever he met friends or neighbors, he would enthusiastically share stories about the large projects he had overseen and the prestigious awards he had received. At first, people admired Robert for his success. But as time went on, his constant boasting about his career began to wear on others. His stories started to feel repetitive and, at times, unconvincing. Everyone knew that boasting couldn't replace real achievements. People who once enjoyed his company began to feel uncomfortable around him, and some even began avoiding him altogether. They didn't want to hear about his past accomplishments time and time again. One day, during a gathering with some old friends, Robert started once more to recount his past successes. But this time, his old friend Steve, who had worked alongside him in the past, spoke up. "Robert, we've heard these stories before. You've accomplished a lot, but what are you doing now? How are you continuing to prove that you still have what it takes?" Steve's words hit Robert hard. For the first time, he stopped and reflected on his behavior. He realized that instead of constantly talking about what he had done, he needed to show his abilities through his actions in the present. From then on, Robert decided to stop boasting about his past achievements. Instead, he focused on sharing practical experiences from his career, helping young people in the community build their skills, and offering mentorship. He became involved in local projects, not to seek recognition, but to make a real difference in his community. Over time, Robert's actions spoke louder than any of his words ever could. He regained the respect and admiration of his neighbors and friends, not because of what he said about himself, but because of the quiet impact he made through his actions. People began to realize that a truly talented person doesn't need to boast about their success. They let their work and character speak for themselves. As we wrap up today's video, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed. From the importance of not boasting about wealth, relationships, or plans, to the value of humility in our talents and actions. These are timeless lessons that can truly shape a more peaceful, fulfilling life, especially as we grow older. So, what have you learned today? Is there a specific piece of wisdom or insight that resonated with you the most? I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share one thing you've learned today and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue to create valuable content that can make a difference in your life. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to hearing how these lessons will shape your journey. Until next time.